So this is a part two to the video that I just made, but I'm going to come up with a solution as to what I think is the right solution to handle it. I feel like if someone is deemed to be a risk to a child, they first need to work out, how much of a risk are they? If it's just that they're a risk, as in the child shouldn't live with them because they're likely to um, just take too many risks or not see risks, or likely to invite strange weird men into the house and not see the risks of dangers that could, if it's just something like this, that is a difference to if someone is likely to, I don't know, start fiddling with plugs with the open back whilst holding the baby. There's a different type of how at risk someone actually is. I'm thinking of my sisters. Yes. On one hand, I think um, I think she can definitely look after a child, uh, in short term, definitely. Long term, I think it might be but she doesn't need two people following her around. She doesn't need to be held like a prisoner in a facility. She probably does need to be, to have someone watch over her. But then I'm thinking, you know what? It's really expensive. That is so expensive, and it's fair for the taxpayers to pay for things like that, because at the end of the day, it's small things. It's small things like not setting alarm clocks, or not doing regular feeds or whatever. It's small things, but there is a solution which, well, would definitely work with our older child. They do these call centers, which is like £100 an hour, whether it's the taxpayer is paying or whether the person who's deemed a risk is paying it. I think that is very, very, very bad. Why? Because if someone told me that I couldn't see my child and I could only see them in a call center, I'd be hugely offended. Now, okay, people who end up in this situation probably aren't hugely offended, hence why they've ended up in this situation, because you should be hugely offended by things like this. But then to be also told that you have to pay £100 an hour for it, I mean, I feel like some people who aren't very good at communicating could just be like, okay, 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 but realize that, I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, there's loads of these fun places, like a fun house. Like, I can't remember what it's. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like it's got lots of. It's like a box with fun things in it. Bean bags and things that you squeeze through, and like just lots of mats and ball ponds, and just like a big, I can't adventure for kids. You can get some for under threes, and you can get some for older threes. And that's what I think a contact center should be. Don't call it a contact center. Just call it like a playhouse where you can have like a couple of staff members watching over, and you probably might need one or two bouncers just in case. I don't know, in case something goes wrong or something. But just a couple of staff, video cameras, and then just get that. I would love to try that. Get all these people who are paying £100 an hour to see their child, because I don't think that they're as much risk as what they're making out. I feel like it's an abusive system, because I feel like the taxpayer can pay for things like this, and they'll think that they're doing a good thing. Oh, we're helping protect kids, when actually I feel like you're actually building up divide between the kid and the mum and the parents. Because I've seen a couple of videos with Sophie in a room, just looking at this 3-year old, and it just seems horrible. It doesn't seem very fun. It doesn't seem like she's really able to interact, because it's just a plain room. It feels awkward because you're in an environment where like people are watching over you, and it's just, the whole thing is awful. And I don't think that she needs to go through that, because she's not that much of a risk. She's a risk, as in living. I don't think the child should live with her, but she's not that much of a risk that, if the contact center was just these big play centers, maybe you had like a big bouncy castle in one area or in one room. So one room could just be like a big bouncy castle for 3 to 5 year old, or you can have different age groups. I'm sure you can have a bouncy castle for 1 to 2, or you can have it just at different times. So if you go at this time, you can, whatever the groups are, just like group things where they have like 10 babies, 10 mothers, and one or two guardians or something like this. You don't need one guardian per one mother. I mean, some people are a risk, but they're not that much of a risk. They're not that much of a risk that they can't stand on a bouncy castle with 10 other people who are of a similar risk to them, with just one person standing over them. I mean, if they did something like this, then the contacts, the hourly sessions or the 2 hourly sessions that they have could probably only be about 10, £15. And I think that's, if I was to implement something, I would actually get rid of all these contact centers and say that the contact centers should only be for people who are so badly at risk for the child. I guess if you're Down syndromes, or if you've got a real mental illness that you really need one-on-one attention. I feel like contact centers should be for people who are so mentally ill that they need one-on-one. They can't be left alone. If you've got people that are very mentally ill, you can't just have one staff looking after all these people. That's definitely not out of the question. But a lot of these people who are a risk to their child, they're not that much of a risk. If there's 10 mothers and 10 babies, I bet one guardian just making sure that everything is going fine is enough. You probably need to have one or two staff that can rush in if things become unsafe, maybe just as a precaution. But something like that would be so much cheaper, and it would be so much more affordable. And if someone was to say that I could only see my child for £100, if I had to pay £100 an hour, I would actually not do it. I don't think I would do it. I think I would be so angry at the thought that I have to go through a centre, and then so angry at the thought that I have to pay that much out of not my choice, and also angry about the thought of paying 500, £600 of child maintenance a year, plus the £100 a year to be with a child when you're probably not that bad. It's just, it feels like there's two ways of seeing it. Either you're a danger and you need to have one-on-one supervision and pay £100 an hour to have that child looked after you, or you're fine and everything, and you'll just be checked up on every now and then. I feel like they have two categories that are just completely contradictory, and there's so many people that fit into something that's middle mark. Like when Sophie was allowed to leave home, it was great. I thought she could do it until I realized that she wasn't going to go to my house, and then I was like, okay, well, this might be a bit different, because I don't trust my mum to be able to be the guardian, and she wasn't. She was an awful guardian. She was there sometimes, but coming in and out, just doing mild guardianship, and it might have been okay for a short amount of time. And obviously, it was okay for a short amount of time, because that happened for 3 weeks, and no real problem, other than the feeding thing. But no real problem happened. I could see that it was only a matter of time before something did happen. But yeah, so she's gone from being in a flat environment with this mad mum who can't recognize any kind of mental illness and only thinks about herself, and is so happy about the child, yes, but just not being a very good guardian, to something almost exact opposite, where constant surveillance with 15 staff members coming in and out, and constant meetings to work on mental health. She's gone from just a little bit of help to huge amounts of help. And I just feel like, isn't that a bit weird, how you've gone from them thinking that she just needs a little bit of help, just a guardian, to her having huge amounts of meetings and huge amounts of taxpayers' money as well going onto this. And it's just like, isn't there like something in the middle? In the middle? It would be different when the child's 3 months. I definitely think the difference in the child. So I'm not saying what's going to happen in the future or something, but I'm just saying that I feel like there seems to be two categories. One where you're allowed to have the child for a day or a few hours or and the other one where you're locked and isolated in a room, sort of stared or constantly with one guardian, and you have to also pay lots of money for that kind of. And it's just like, surely there's something in the middle, and that's what I would suggest. I would get rid of huge amounts of contact centers, because I think it builds up bad taste in your mouth, a bad vibe, to feel like you're in this situation. You can't really have fun in just a room with just looking at a baby, whilst knowing all this, this distrust of you. And if they told me that the only way I could see Sophie's younger child is if I paid £100 to look in a call centre, I wouldn't do it. Now, who's that going to really be at a disadvantage? Isn't the disadvantage going to come to the child who's not going to be around me? I wouldn't pay £100 to see Leo in a call centre. They would do it. I don't know. Leah doesn't like me. Ian doesn't like me, so he thinks that I think I'm Christ, so therefore I'm a danger to the child. He's built up some lie that's not true because I'm not a danger to anyone. But he would use whatever he can to. He would use his power to abuse me by saying this nonsense, and use his power by saying that, oh, you can only do it in a call center. And also, it'd be funny though, because we did see him in a call center once. It'd be funny if it turned out that we are actually going to be charged £100 for that and not tell me. That's like going into a restaurant saying we're not allowed to eat throughout the whole of Wednesday, and only on Wednesday you are allowed to eat in this restaurant, but we're not going to tell you how much. And then afterwards, being like, okay, yeah, it's £100. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what they did with Sophie, because they didn't tell her how much she should be paying or will be paying or whatever. I mean, whether she's paying all the taxpayers' money, I think both are wrong, because I don't think she needs that much help with, I'm sure if there was just a room full of lots of kids and lots of mothers and then just a couple of staff members, I'm pretty sure that she would do just as well in that environment as in a £100 an hour session, under tight supervision. It's just, I want to fix this. I want to fix this because it's obviously very broken right now.